Gotcha. We out here and we're live. Welcome back. Welcome back to Learn Ya with Jack. As we traverse on quantum things. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for being here. It's good to digitally see you, to digitally have you. It's quite a pleasure. And we're switching it up today. We're getting crazy with it. Okay? Welcome back. We are continuing our series of shining more light on Charlie Kirk. As if he didn't shine enough divine light in our society and continues to for eternity already. We're gonna add to this light, okay? This is part 1 within our Charlie Kirk series of face reading. I wanted to, jazz it up a bit, get a little spice, you hear me? Because we've been getting pretty serious, and this topic is serious as well. However, all things metaphysical, spirituality, pseudoscience. Mind you, I'm convinced, y'all, that pseudoscience is just a name for the category of sciences that most people do not want to accept yet. But as we know in this classroom, in this sacred space, we know that whatever humans come together and collectively believe becomes true. So, we manifest our realities. We already know this. This is basic 101 spirituality, manifestation, science. Now, I'm so glad we're here together. Thank you for coming. I wanted to focus on a couple different aspects within face reading. How I first got started in exploring this topic, as one does, is actually the good old TikTok. The good old TikTok would know that the algorithm of face reading should be in my face. Now, as someone who likes to read, there are many things you can read. You can read symbols, as we know. You can read anything to do with the senses as well. I mean, you could read those things. You can read books. You can read between the lines of books. You can read body posture. You can read mathematics through numbers. You can read sheet music. There are many things. There are many things we can read. One of the things that we can actually read that most people subconsciously do without knowing, right? On the subconscious, these are things that are programmed into us. Now, when I speak about these things and I bring them to the forefront, you're going to see the world through a different lens. Or you're going to start to develop a wider lens concept of what's going on in your physical reality, because we also know in this sacred space that our 5D plus trickles down and anchors into the 3D, 4D reality. So we're going to be looking through a super conscious lens, and for anyone who has essentially been an A1 since day one, or consumed more of my content, we know the superconscious is also extremely literal, specifically when it comes to body ailments as well, among many other things, but that was one topic we have explored. So thank you guys for joining. I don't really have any announcements at this time that are brand new, aside from, what we already spoke about in the previous days. Yeah, this is Gratias Guidance, and I'm Miss Gracious. This is part 1 of our journey through the ancient, emphasis on ancient art of face reading. We're going to reimagine the lens through the superconscious while also utilizing techniques throughout all the different ancient cultures. Okay, so essentially what happens is the divine spark or flame or light paints our 3D faces with the colors of our soul. And you can tell a lot about someone by their face. We're going to explore how the late Charlie Kirk, an extremely vibrant, conservative leader, he lit up stages, as we all know, with his passion, gun rights, traditional values, Christian nationalism, morals, ethics, it's giving Toddle, our boy Aristotle, until his tragic passing about a month ago. Now, with Charlie Kirk's face, and your face and my face, it's really a cosmic canvas where every feature manifests your own. What is good, Ethan? Thank you for being here. I'm so glad you're here, bud. Yes. I'm so glad you're here. It manifests through our own inner truths. Okay? So we're going to uncover some of the gifts, some of the lessons that specifically Charlie Kirk's face reveals with extra love, extra light. Now, as I was saying, the face reading spans across many different cultures and is extremely ancient in its wisdom. We have multiple different cultures we're going to pick from. The main ones I'm focusing on are going to be Chinese, which is where I first kind of started to dabble with understanding some of these concepts. We also have Greek animal archetypes, and within the Indian tradition, we also have Vedic. We don't have wisdom. Well, stay around my channel and you will. I don't know if people can, I'm like still new to doing lives on this platform, so I'm not sure if people can actually read the chat when I actually post it. I don't know, I haven't looked into that, but either way, within the Indian culture as well, they have, through Vedic, they have the karmic blueprint. Even in European, there are moral portraits as well. And of course, one of my favorite things to consider is more of a very literal type of viewpoint through the superconscious. But when we unite all of these ancient studies and wisdoms together, it really does reflect what's on our inner comes to the outer. So, reflecting in not only our character, but our emotions are literally on our face, the ones that are most prevalent, that we most lean into, and our beliefs as well. So, if you guys look at Charlie Kirk's photos, he has quite a square face. He's got really dark hair, like a beacon of purpose, high forehead with a widow's peak. I also have a widow's peak. Thick brows. They're like semi-straight and sort of arched, thick brows that radiate energy, intense brown eyes, a straight nose with a flat part on his nose and thicker nostrils, and then a thin M shape on his upper lip, bold square chin, and ears nestled close like champions, so his ears kind of tuck away from the front. See, my ears kind of stick out. Now, with clean-shaven glow or light stubble that he always had, he was shown with conviction. We're going to get into it, yeah, because essentially, guys, his face is a divine portrait of exactly the embodiment of who he is and who he was and continues to be in this life or the next, and previous lives in John Adams, which we'll get to that too, not in this not in this, but in our continuum sacred class, okay? So, yeah, essentially we're going to start from the top down and highlight. I do have a photo. This photo, he looks concerned, but I probably could have picked a better photo. Wow, he's glowing. Isn't he just glowing? I just love him. He's so great. Okay, now, so if you guys want, I do recommend, if you have another device, or if you can still have this playing on your device, to pull up a picture of Charlie Kirk, like a still photo, towards the latter half of his life, to kind of get an understanding as to what I'm saying here. So yeah, the forehead. We'll start at the top at the forehead there. We'll go through about 10 more minutes of this, and then I think what we're going to do, I guess this is my only announcement, I want to try to keep these more bite-sized and short, so more people are actually going to listen through to the whole thing. So that means we're going to veer off of the 1 hour to 2 hour, and we're going to veer into 20 to 30 minute sectors every day, except for probably weekends. It's cut. So to keep that in mind, because I really want people to actually start to consume these things and not be so intimidated by an hour, 2 hour content. They're like, what, am I watching a movie? Well, yeah, my life a movie. Just kidding. My life isn't a movie, guys. This is my life. This is my life. Okay, so anyways, forehead, it's not about me, it's about Hui. Yeah, Sandra, I don't know what you're saying in the chat, but, you know, I appreciate you being here, but I'm not sure you're understanding where we're going with this. We're discussing how which, this is a perfect segue to put this in. We're discussing essentially how our emotions, our 4D literally manifests to our 3D. To include our divine connection, it's literally everything that's like 4D plus manifests into our bodies, into our realities. So what does that mean? Essentially, we have emotions, which would be 4D, right? And our emotions that we most naturally produce, our faces have muscles, main muscles, and they also have micro muscles, and probably, I don't know, you probably could put macro, micro muscles, right? I'm no, like, doctor when it comes to the muscle groups. However, I do know we do have micro muscles, and we have larger muscles, and we have tendons, all these other things. So what happens is the most prevalent emotions that one has will start to carve out and show up on their face. Again, because our emotions create not only expressions, but they also create micro expressions. So these micro and macro expressions from our micro and macro muscles tend to sculpt our face. And that's just one of the things. I mean, there are many other things that sculpt the face as well. But it gives you a lot of insight as to someone's inner core being, they're almost like their resting state, and also other indicators of what's happened throughout their life, and even indicators of where they're headed or where they're going. Now, it's quite fascinating. It's just like an endless book, and I do want to preface this too, guys, with the fact that I've said this before. This is extremely important. When we are to read someone's face, what we are to do is we are not to put them in a box, and we're not to be like, oh, this is exactly who they are. Yeah. Sandra, you're about to be ixnayed out if we don't relax. Like, there are other lives, there's probably tons of other lives you can jump on that are talking about what you're talking about. We're talking about a completely different thing. I digress. Essentially, guys, so yeah, when it comes to face reading, we don't want to put anyone in a box. What are you saying? You're so distracting. Like, how do I get rid of you? I don't even know. So, sorry, guys. It's so distracting. Anyways, so we don't want to ever, no matter what, put anyone in a box. But what we can do is we can utilize these tools to help us understand a little bit more of our reality and what's going on. And what's also going on underneath the surface. And again, these are things that we actually already know. I'm just bringing them up to your conscious to be more aware about these things and to kind of start to look at the world through a different lens, through a much more diverse lens than just, oh, genetics, because that ain't true. It's partially true, but it ain't the full. We out here trying to anchor in the full truth, not just the partial. So we're going to start with his forehead. Yeah, essentially, to sum that up, do not judge a book by its cover, right? You look at this and you're like, okay, you could judge the book by its cover, but this doesn't give everything, right? Look how many pages there are. Does that make, you guys already know, that makes complete sense. You can judge a book by its cover, but then you need to understand much more than what meets the surface. So I do want to preface that with not being judgmental up front, because, oh, someone has a few harsh tendencies in their face. Well, what you need to do is you need to also balance that with what else is showing. Because a lot of times you'll see we might have some harshness or some features that perhaps reflect something a little bit more harsh, but then they're very much so, they can be balanced out by very good things in other areas of someone's face. Does that make sense? So you don't want to just shove someone in a corner and being like, oh, they're this, this, and this, when they have all of these other expressions on their face. So it's kind of like an endless pursuit. You don't want to box anyone in, but I do think it's important to kind of bring this to the forefront, because we already do this on a subconscious level anyways. Yeah, we got an interesting spammer in the chat. Yeah, Kingsley's right. So y'all, when it comes to the forehead, we're going to talk about that. On Kirk's forehead, it's extremely high and it's extremely broad, kind of like a glowing lighthouse of the mind. In the universal subconscious view, the forehead is the soul's vision board, okay, and will manifest intellect and ambition. Drawing from some of the Chinese face reading, this is actually considered the heavenly center, right? It's like closest to heaven, right? Your crown chakra, right? And it beams with clarity, showing that Kirk had actually a lot of brilliance, which makes sense because he was able to fund and found Turning Point at such a young age, just at 18. Which, 18, we all know that's like a teenager. That's literally a teenager. 18 years old is a teenager. 21 plus is, I would consider, like 21 to like 30. This is my personal opinion, right? Opinions are not rooted necessarily in truth. This is rooted in experience. 21 to like 30 is like still kind of like a young adult to me. Like, that's still very young. It's giving adolescent adult. Because there's just so many more experiences that one can have. So at such a young age, he's putting together Turning Point. And this is really prevalent in how expansive his mind is based off his forehead length. And we already know that through Turning Point, he was able to ignite and affect millions of people, especially younger conservatives and also liberals and moderate folk, like, everyone and anyone in between. To include, of course, his digital presence as well, where he affected millions, doesn't matter what age, right? So essentially, guys, like a more expansive forehead like we have with Kirk, very expansive, radiates soul destined to dream big. Not only a dreamer, a thinker. It's kind of like a cosmic architect building the bridges of belief. It can also signify more of a, if you're prominent in thinking, what can happen, you can also be a little too prominent and tend to overthink as well, right? Now, that could have eventually potentially manifested for him as tension in life's pressures piling up. A gentle reminder basically to always choose balance and balance your own ambitions with peace. So some of the Greek sides of this, the Greek wisdom sees this as a lion's proud brow. And with that, it's shining with leadership and courage, which essentially matches Charlie Kirk's bold debates as well. Within the Indian tradition of the forehead, it's viewed as a karmic crown of wisdom. And when you have slight receding in areas, suggests some challenges, which could also imply potentially some of the things leading to his early passing from his echo of gun advocacy. Now, within the European traditions, they call this forehead area the philosopher's dome. You see how everyone kind of has this, every ancient reading, face reading kind of has a similar thing. They call it something different, but it's very much so similar with the underlying meaning, okay? Now, it has to do with purpose, manifesting a soul ablaze with vision, and helped Kirk with having his path unwavering in his divine light in connection to the divine. Now, one thing I really want to highlight, which is a little bit more unique, I don't see this all the time, is the widow's peak, which Kirk has a widow's peak. He has a very prominent forehead, and he has a widow's peak. A widow's peak, as we all know, is kind of like the vampire look, where you have more of a point in the middle, and then you have your hairline go back. So you don't have a straight across hairline, right? You have like a triangle right here, which I actually have that too. Or, some people might call it like a heart-shaped face, because you have the widow's peak, and then if someone has a more pointy chin, heart-shaped face, okay? So when you see the widow's peak, which was extremely significant on Charlie Kirk's face, essentially it's a marker of heightened intuition, and also manifesting a soul attuned to deeper truths and foresight. A trait that underscores Charlie Kirk's wise character, very wise, and guided his strategic leadership and insightful advocacy with a profound, almost cosmic sense of purpose. And actually, I would just have to say very cosmic sense of purpose. So, what time do we have? 24? Okay. We'll get into his eyebrows a little bit. But yeah, guys, so when you think of this half of the face and the hairline, just to give you some extra little tips and tricks. Actually, we'll probably just close out on the forehead, and then we'll start in the eyebrows tomorrow. So we're going to go into the eyebrows, and then we're going to go into the eyes. And I'm not really going to do an intro. This is more the intro video. So we're just going to hop right into, getting into the other facial features. What I want to conclude on with you guys with the forehead, okay, and in that part, our dome, right, is, let me just put a place marker as to where we're at for tomorrow, where we're going to start. So I'm going to do that real fast. some other things to essentially look out for, okay, when it comes to the forehead. So we've got the widow's peak. One thing you might see is when someone has very much so their hairline's going back, or like a more prominent forehead, like, you know, how people are like, oh, they got a 5 head. Because a 4 head is like 4 fingers, a 5 head is 5 fingers, right? So if someone has a little bit more prominent forehead, generally that can also give insight to someone being a little bit more open-minded. Now, when they have less of a prominent forehead and you see people that have their hairline kind of go down, that would indicate not as open-minded, right? So it's the opposite. Anytime you kind of are like, okay, it's a generalization though too, remember? So we don't want to look at people's foreheads and be like, you're closed-minded because your hairline touches your eyebrows. We're not doing that, okay? Though I feel like that would be kind of fun. I'm just kidding. So we're not in this class to do that. We're in this class to essentially kind of start to see if it's confirmed in our reality, right? People that have widow peaks, if you yourself do, or if you know someone that does, confirm for yourself, do they have insights or perhaps intuition or maybe more spiritual information or wisdom that perhaps others don't really naturally tend to have? Is that confirmed, right? If someone's hairline is touching their eyebrows, okay, is this person closed-minded or am I reading that wrong? And if they are closed-minded, are they just closed-minded about one specific topic to an extreme? You hear me on that? Or are they, right? So there's anomalies that you always have to consider. You know, I don't want to box any of this information. I want this information to be something as a baseline for you guys to kind of start to see things differently and confirm for yourself what you notice as well. Across many cultures, we only touched on the forehead, right? And we're already seeing they all are mirroring the same information, but they're calling it different things. As we know, that's true in many different sectors within and pillars of discipline within our reality here. It's almost like we're connected on a cosmic consciousness level. Probably because we are. Now, yeah, so keep that in mind. You know, don't put people in boxes, but these are just some of the insights based on ancient wisdom that we find. Yeah, so that kind of sums up our class for today, and we'll get into eyebrows. I want to spill all the beans, but we're not going to spill all the beans. Just even look at your own forehead maybe tonight and see what you can read about your dome piece, and yourself, and what it says about not only how open-minded you may or may not be, but also your hairline as well. Like, is it more towards your eyebrows, or is it more towards the back? Receding is like a trigger word probably. Receding hairline. Now, just because someone's hairline is receding does not mean that they're open-minded. We know a lot of people that are even probably bald that are not open-minded. That's more of the genetics factor. But yeah, so anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this more fun class, this intro to the ancient art of face reading. And like usual fashion, I'll close out in a prayer for us. So, bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, God within, thank you for the opportunity to come together and to learn and discuss and grow in things that you already know, and anchor these things into our reality that we can build upon, not as structures to box anyone or anything in, but as structures that we can start to understand and see how the world operates on a much deeper level than perhaps we normally do and see. That we can start to expand our minds, recede our hairlines. It's a bad joke. We're not receding our hairlines. We do want to grow our hairlines. However, that we can expand our minds and not limit ourselves to just genetics, but understand in the cosmic sense, there's much more going on behind what we can rightfully see. That we can deepen our understanding of these truths, and that you might give us these more divine insights so we can actually approach the world from a better, higher understanding and utilize this information and build upon this information to actually lead from a proper standpoint. Deeply rooted in wisdom and understanding. We love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. That was fun. I hope you guys liked today's class. Right? Amen. My boys. We don't have our friend in the chat. Thank you so much. I hope you guys liked it. You can comment or send me a direct message on what you're thinking about this so far. This was just scraping the surface. Oh, thank you so much for being here, Lucifer. Appreciate you. Good to see you back here again, too. Thank you so much. Welcome. Welcome to the community. Yeah, so, yeah, Ethan, we can probably figure that out because essentially I'm wanting to keep these shorter so people actually will digest the whole thing, not just a few minutes and give up on 2 hours, because as we know, it's quite intimidating, or just it's too much. It's a movie. But as far as like starting goes, I do need to get like an actual start time. I like to do these in the evenings because I know you guys are like generally available in the evenings, but if you guys have a preferred time,